well.
I remember it as like kind of just like I laid down, like I went to sleep, and I could hear. The only sense that I could use was my hearing. I couldn't lift my arms up. I couldn't speak.
Tasia Brummagem recalls her experience with Overdose.
I could just hear what was going on around me. I don't remember much more of it than waking up, at the hospital, and then they did a panel and told me I had opioids in my system and that I had overdosed.
She grew up without her father around and witnessed domestic abuse in her home. At 13, she was a victim of sexual assault. Tasia says she started using drugs a year later to cope with that childhood trauma. Her drug of choice was meth.
It was my escape, and it felt good at the time, and that I didn't have to, confront my trauma or my problems or my feelings head on.
For some, an overdose might be a wake-up call, but Tasia continued to use.
Didn't care what happened to me, because if I survived that one, I was going to survive another one, and it would be all right.
No matter what happened, nothing seemed to compel Tasia to stop using.
I went to jail like 5 or 6 times in a span of 6 months, and I got out and I did the same thing. So that wasn't enough for me. I had a CPS case. My kids were taken, and that wasn't enough for me. My kids were in foster care. That wasn't enough for me. I actually overdosed twice. That wasn't enough for me.
Then one day, she had an epiphany. She had had enough.
I remember my last arrest, and I went to jail, and I was just tired. I was done. Like I was just so defeated. There's many times where I should have been dead. You know what I'm saying? And I've survived.
Today, Tasia is sober.
I haven't picked up any substances in 5 years.
She works as a peer support specialist at Centerpoint, working with people to help overcome their addictions.
When I'm able to connect with someone, whether it's mental health or substance use, and I'm able to share my experience, and my hope that I have today and what works for me, just hearing someone say, like, wow, look at you, or like, you get it. It helps me, right? It's like, man, I get to do this. I can just reach one person, that makes it so much worth it.
Reporting in Lincoln, Yosef Nasser with Nebraska's trusted news source.
Great story there from Yosef. And coming up later on, another emotional story you don't want to miss involving an accidental overdose. We're going to hear from the victim's family coming up. Stay with us, everyone.
It's Schaefer's semi-sesquicentennial Super Sale Savings Spectacular.
You just could have said it's our 75th anniversary.
It's Schaefer's 75th anniversary. Save on Frigidaire appliances up to 48 months interest-free. And when you update your whole kitchen to Frigidaire, get up to $200 cash back. Plus, free delivery after rebate on qualified purchases. Hurry in for the savings during Schaefer's 75th anniversary event.
Now Dish has dedicated teams monitoring your signal 24/7.
In the late summer months, when salmon are plentiful.
Because we know you need dependable TV.
25 fish per day.
24/7. TV you can depend on 24/7. Dish. Tuned in to you.
We now return to 8 Investigates, Lincoln's Overdose Crisis, sponsored by Centerpoint.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, so many of these cases involve accidental overdoses. 10 years ago, Melanie O'Hare died 2 weeks after giving birth to her daughter. This evening, we're hearing from her family who spoke with Channel 8 about Melanie, her struggle, and how they are using her story to help others heal while still healing themselves.
There's things that you wish now that she's gone that you wish you would have said, and then there's some things that you wish you wouldn't have ever said to her. But
The memory of Melanie O'Hare remains in the town of Wilbur. Her family never forgetting her spunk and competitiveness.
She kept everybody on their toes. She was loved by many.
The youngest of four, Mel's fame in Wilbur spread in sports. Mel earned a scholarship to throw discus at the University of Missouri after setting the state record in the event. That record stands to this day.
She was by far probably the best athlete in our family. I was probably the worst.
Still, at an early age, Mel had a rebellious side.
It didn't affect her when she got in trouble. And that was the difference, I feel like.
During Thanksgiving break, her sophomore year in college, Mel was involved in a near tragic crash.
They hit a tree 70 miles an hour.
Somehow, Melanie and 3 others survived. She suffered a broken femur, fractured hip, nerve damage to one of her feet, among several other injuries. Months of rehab forced her to drop out of school and move back home. However, despite taking several pain medications for her injuries, Mel didn't show signs of addiction, or at the very least, she kept her struggle hidden. A few years later, she eloped with her husband Pete in 2009. They found out they were pregnant a year later. Mel gave birth to her daughter, Jace Marie, on April 1st of 2011.
She looks just like her when she was little. It's kind of like deja vu.
2 weeks later, after a night out with friends, Melanie didn't wake up.
Her friend called and said she won't wake up and she's blue. And she didn't wake up, so they called 911. Of course, they tried to do CPR, but she was...
An autopsy later revealed a combination of alcohol, an antidepressant, and hydrocodone was the cause of death. Mel had been prescribed pain medication during her pregnancy to help with the pain from injuries that still lingered from that 2005 car crash. She ran out of the prescription after giving birth, but received the hydrocodone from a friend.
And I knew she was in a lot of pain because her body language, like when she'd sit down and stuff, you could tell that she was in a lot of pain, but I still think part of it was addiction.
Melanie was just 26 years old. She died a few feet away from her 2-week-old daughter.
The last thing I heard her say was, "I love that baby more than anything in this world."
2 weeks after Melanie's death, Easter weekend, Jace was baptized.
We had her baptism. It was the most beautiful baptism I've ever seen. And her daddy, Jace's daddy, sat by me and the tears just rolled and landed on the baby blanket. And her sister, I could hear her crying in the back. And then another friend was sobbing. And when the baptism was done, we walked across the street to her mom's funeral and sat in the road.
I feel like I couldn't breathe. It was that feeling of, oh my gosh, how are we going to recover as a family?
The grief still remains a decade later. The wounds from Melanie's death still healing. And in honor of Melanie, her sister Janet tells her story. A former teacher, she speaks with 30 to 40 groups of middle and high school students a year. She hopes by telling Mel's story, she'll save lives.
I just feel like if there's anything we can do so this doesn't happen to other people, that's helping us heal as well. And so that has been probably our best thing. I feel like we are the closest we've ever been, but it's taken a long time. It's been 10 years.
Mel's parents agree, and the entire family preaches the same message when remembering Mel.
You've only got one body, and you better take care of it, because if you abuse it now, you're going to pay for it later.
Life is so short. It's all about relationships, and if you can repair any kind of relationship that's not going well, I'd say do it sooner than later. You just never know.
Well, that's from Melanie's daughter, Jace. She's now in the 5th grade, living in Minnesota with her father, Pete. Crystal and Ray say she's a spitting image of her mom, and they're still very blessed to be a much part of her life. Well, the way drugs are marketed to our children continues to change, and therefore drug education becomes more important every year. Red Ribbon Week is later this month, and it's the oldest and largest drug prevention program. Throughout October, DEA investigators and law enforcement officers will visit schools across the state educating students on drugs in the hopes kids won't experience with them.
Their fathers, their mothers, they know and they've seen how bad it can be. They can relay that, and they know how to talk to children because they have children.
Now, a Red Ribbon Week started after family and friends began wearing red ribbons in remembrance of the DEA agent who was murdered. Students across the country will be participating from October 23rd through the 31st. Well, there's more information on how you can get help if you or a loved one has been dealing with addiction. Last month, Channel 8 paid a visit to Center Point Outpatient Clinic to see firsthand what the process looks like to get that help. And once you get to the building and tell them about the situation you're in, they'll talk about the different treatment options for one-on-one outpatient therapy. Now, this helps patients manage their withdrawal with medication. Center Point is also a health clinic where they can get their physical health care needs met.
Sometimes people are afraid. Sometimes people are afraid to seek mental health services and substance use services. But it's like walking to any other clinic. If you're experiencing some mental health issues and you don't feel well, come in. It doesn't look any different like any other clinic around here.
Now, a Center Point official tells Channel 8 that the last fiscal year, 8% of people seen had an opioid use disorder at Center Point. That's 347 people, which is 26% increase from the previous year. This would make opioid use disorder Center Point's 10th most frequent diagnosis. And last year, Center Point received a grant for $4 million over 2 years that enabled them to expand their mobile crisis response team, partnering with LPD to make sure there is a therapist just a phone call away from any dispatch. Last year, LPD fielded just under 3,900 mental health calls in the city.
Going up to the individual, letting them know who I am, that I'm with the crisis response team, that I'm here to support them, that our goal is to figure out what their needs are.
All Lincoln police officers are equipped to respond to the scene of an overdose. Center Point's mobile crisis response is similar to its outpatient clinic. Calmly assess the scene, diagnose the problem through speaking with the victim, and connect them with services that may help.
Ultimately, our job out there is to be that empathetic ear for individuals and to really listen to them, see what they need.
It's really just trying to figure out where the person's at and just being with them with where they're at.
Now, state law says people who experience overdose or are with someone who experiences an overdose, they are protected from future prosecution as long as they cooperate with first responders and remain on the scene. Well, coming up next, we have a full panel discussion on Lincoln's overdose crisis. Make sure to stay with us.
We now return to 8 Investigates, Lincoln's Overdose Crisis, sponsored by Centerpoint.
And welcome back, everyone. We're beginning the panel discussion on these overdose crises in our community. Joining us this evening are 2 members from Centerpoint, Topher Hansen and Tasia Brummagem, and then a member from the Lincoln Police Department, Captain Ryan Dale. Thank you guys so much for helping us educate the public tonight.
You bet. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank
so
you.
You guys, just wanted to give the audience a heads up. You can submit questions at any point during our website, or you can just comment on our Facebook Live portion of this as well. It's just kind of a broad topic here. Well, Captain Dale, I guess we'll start with you here, but how have you seen this grow? Because there was a 5-year rolling average between 2016 and 2015 and 2020, where it was just 75 cases a year. Well, we're at 180 so far this year. How have you seen this kind of grow over the years, the last couple of years especially?
Right. Actually, the rolling average went through 2019, and then last year we had 132. And this year we're already at 180, which is very alarming, of course. And out of those 180, 80 of those are opioid related. And we feel that with everybody working together, we can prevent many of those.
Topher?
Well, it was a surprise to me that it has surged up this far, that I thought maybe with the national crisis being what it was and a lot of money rolling down into local localities that we would slow that down more than we have, but we have seen ours grow from next to nothing to hundreds of cases on our caseload of people who have addictions to opiates. And it's not all heroin or illicit fentanyl or anything like that. It's people who are on prescription drugs, and then sometimes that evolves into heroin use because that's what they can get and they're out of the prescription and all those things. But I've been surprised to see with all the reforms that have happened that it's still surged as far forward as it has.
Tasia, we heard your story earlier in the show. It's a very emotional story. As someone who has survived overdose, what's the emotional side of this from you?
I'm angry. My initial reaction was a lot of anger, and you know, you hear about it happening a lot. I've lost a lot of friends and people I know since I started my wellness journey, and but this one was just, I was angry. I was angry at, you know, what was going on in the streets, and then I was angry at the people who were actually using it. You know, there was a lot of anger and frustration with what was going on.
Yes, and we want to remind people you can submit questions. We have one right now. When the doctor stops prescribing opioids, people look elsewhere. Captain Dale, I guess it's probably more directed toward you. Mm-hmm. How do we fix this?
Well, we fix it by, number one, by looking out for each other. If you have a loved one or a friend, family member that you know is struggling with addiction, don't be afraid to be upfront with them and address it. Don't be afraid to try and connect them with resources. Our community has phenomenal resources, and we need to take advantage of those.
And this is a good reminder too. This can happen to anybody.
Anybody.
Yes, and Topher, I'm sure you experienced that.
Well, in fact, I was sitting about a year ago, I was sitting at an event with a woman I knew who was in her mid-80s, and she said, I think I have friends who are addicted. And I said, why do you say that? And she said, they're very focused on their pills all the time. And then said they used to have a lot of pain, and now they're really focused on their pills. And I said, it sounds like that may be an issue for them. So that said to me, wow, this is everybody. And so, yeah, when, you know, getting the education out there about what this is, and that if you have pain and are on medications like that and the prescription runs out, where you can get help. And that's why, you know, Centerpoint has a crisis response team if things really go south fast and you need that help. Or we have ample treatment services that you can get same day. You can walk into our outpatient and get the help right then and there, be seen that day. And so ready access to care when people need care is one of the secrets, that you have to have that in a community.
Tasia, what's something that you say to somebody that comes up to you, approaches you and says, I'm struggling right now?
Sure. So I actually work on the crisis response team at Centerpoint. And so we meet with individuals in all phases of their crisis, whatever it looks like to them. And it's just, how can I support you at this time? You know, don't force anything on them, but ask how I can support them, share my lived experience with them, and let them know what I've been through and how can I walk with you through this.
We have another viewer question here. I think there's a misconception about what fully cooperate means when getting help and staying on the scene of an overdose. Captain Dale, I guess this again goes to you. Could you explain that law a little bit more?
Sure. There's, I think it was passed in 2019. Yeah. There was basically a Good Samaritan law that was passed to encourage victims and witnesses of overdoses to seek emergency help. There's protections in place through state statute for a victim and person reporting overdose. There's protections as far as criminal liability goes, because the goal is obviously for them to not hesitate to seek help and to seek the treatment that they need so they don't die.
So has this surprised you as kind of why this is happening now when there are a lot of initiatives happening right now to kind of put an end to this?
Well, what we've seen in the last 18 months with COVID is the unknown of that environment has caused anxiety and depression to go up. We've seen stats that the alcohol sales have gone up 600%, and I don't know what it is today, but this has exacerbated and accelerated things in a way that certainly I didn't predict, but once you saw that environment change, and what I said about during COVID is everybody came to understand they have mental health. The question is, what condition is it in? And a lot of people felt that stress and anxiety of being isolated, not being able to do the things they normally did. And then some experienced depression around that. And nobody intentionally sets out to have a drug issue. You know, that nobody wakes up in the morning and says that. It feels good and your brain says, hey, that felt good, do that again. Yeah. And then it goes.
I have to cut you off here. We're going to continue our discussion. Actually, that's all the time we have for On Air. We're going to continue this on our digital platforms right now, Facebook Live and our website. So please keep watching, keep submitting those questions. We're going to see you right now on our digital platforms. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you for
Furniture Row. So get ready because everything is on sale. Save on living, dining, and bedroom. Plus 4 years, no interest, and free shipping. The biggest sale of the season. On now at Furniture Row.
There's a buzz in the air in Kansas. Maybe it's the roar of fans back at the track, or the anticipation of 8 drivers hoping to make it to the championship 4. Maybe it's the pulse of the heartland, showcasing 3 races, and the sound of grills sizzling in the campgrounds. Whatever it may be, it will.
And so that's what we saw. We saw a lot of it just on the crisis response team. The mentioning of anxiety and depression went up about 280%. And so we know that everybody was experiencing that. And just the number of people walking in, the number of calls, crisis responses going on, the number of times we responded with the Lincoln Police Department, all that went up because it just intensified everything. So I guess if you see that, it's not a big surprise that some negative ramifications would come from it, but it's nothing anybody had forecast.
Tasia, what are you seeing on the crisis response team as far as, like, is there a specific demographic or age group there? Is this really affecting young people, old people? What have you seen?
All different ages. I mean, sometimes it still is wild to me how young the individuals are and then how older the individuals are. There's literally it doesn't discriminate.
Alrighty. Well, so you can probably touch on this too, Tasia. What are some of the physical and mental tolls that this takes on the body?
A lot. I was just talking about how when I was arrested the last time, I weighed about 90 pounds. I was having liver and kidney failure from being malnourished. I hadn't eaten or drinking in weeks. And so when I had got to jail, they almost put me on dialysis. It was that bad, but I was able to just get a lot of electrolytes. My hair was falling out. I contemplated suicide several times in my active addiction. Thought every time that I was going to use it was going to be my last one, and it wouldn't look like actual suicide. It would look accidental. I prayed for the days that I overdosed and died because I was just, my mental capacity was just, I was scared all the time, fearful. I presented with paranoia. You know, I didn't know where I was half the time, and so it was a long journey to get back to where I'm at today. So.
And you know, that is a great example of the power of addiction, because it doesn't matter who it is. Whether it's opiates, alcohol, or any methamphetamine or any other drug, and the addiction is a brain disease where it really changes the structure of the brain, and your brain says, I want that. You give me that again. And it is all powerful, where you will do anything to get there, but you're miserable all the time. And that's why I say nobody plans on this. Yeah. Nobody says this is cool. Nobody loves that it's going on, but it's so compelling. And I saw one scientist who studied methamphetamine and said this appears to be more powerful than our desire to eat food. Meaning your brain tells you to eat food every day. We don't know that. We don't think about that, but that's what's happening. Your brain's telling you to do that. And this is more powerful than that. So you know, the person that's in that position is stuck. And they're trying to figure out how to, you know, do I just die? Just get me out of here, because they're trying to figure out what to do with it. And so that's where getting to care. And so to have someone like Tasia who can come in and really be that person that can relate to you on that, and then therapists and other people that can support you in that journey of recovery, it's important. And once you get that kind of that first day, I mean, talk about your first day where you kind of all of a sudden got hope that this was going to change.
Absolutely. I remember my first few days in like detox, in a detox center, and it was painful at first, but like it almost felt like every hour that went by, I just kind of felt like more myself. I could remember things. I could actually like eat, and it was pleasurable. You know, I wasn't eating just to like not die. I was eating a food because it tasted good, because I wanted to eat an apple. You know, I wasn't having to steal food from the gas station just to get by. You know, and it gave me a lot of hope. Every hour gave me a lot of hope. And if I could tell anybody who's struggling, you just fight through it, because you know there is better days coming. My first day was really painful. You know, I went through a lot of the withdrawals and the sickness, but then like day 2, it was like I could breathe. Like I just felt like relieved. You know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, that's very powerful. Captain Dale, when you arrive in an overdose scene, what's that initial reaction that you get?
As far as how I feel?
Yeah, just how you feel. Like, yeah, what's going through your mind when you arrive? You know, just aside from the technical aspect of it, when you're doing your job, of course.
Well, I think all officers tend to, in the moment, compartmentalize things and just kind of do what needs to be done, and then later on you start to process things. But you know, it's you know, over time, seeing these things can be traumatic. You know, seeing people suffer in these ways. Seeing the amount of people that are dying from this, even the ones that are surviving, many of them are experiencing long-term effects, you know, lack of feeling in their legs, affected vision, affected ability to digest things. There's a lot of, especially with these recent fentanyl overdoses, it's very traumatic to people.
And, you know, we talked about that unborn child passed away from one of these fentanyl overdoses. The kids and all this stuff. I talked to some people, you know, throughout these stories that we've run throughout the last month or so, and there was talking about how just easy access to these drugs, because it's pain medications that people get for stuff like wisdom teeth. What are some things we can do to kind of get kids away from that? Is it just education?
Yeah, I think education and you know, knowing what your kids are doing. I strongly encourage parents to inspect their kids' cell phones, especially, you know, so much of these drugs are being sold via Snapchat and mediums like that. Be aware of what your kids are, know their friends, know where they're at, those sorts of things. If you have your own medications for legitimate reasons, keep them locked up and secure where they can't access them.
Topher, do you have any advice for parents going out there? Is it the same lines as what Ryan was saying right there?
Boom. I mean, you have to charge and remember that, you know, they're still evolving and developing, and, you know, their brains are developing. While they won't acknowledge that when they're 16, 17, 18, their brains are still developing, and they're just learning to fly. You know, so they're the most dangerous they'll ever be in that 16, 17 range, because they're just learning to get going and drive cars, and they're getting into situations where alcohol and drugs are there. So to be really involved with them is super important. And the phone is so fast and so accessible to a whole bunch of places. That's super important.
Tasia, you have kids, correct?
Yes.
Just what do you tell your kids from your experience?
I'm really honest with my kids. My kids know what's going on with me. They know what I have to do for my wellness and recovery today, because they were away from me for so long when I was not well. And what I have found is just having that really intimate, sincere, honest conversation, as opposed to being really authoritative. I want them to talk to me about it. Because I've been there, you know, and so I have yet to. My kids are pretty young, so we're not there yet, but they see me, and they've seen me in addiction, and then they've seen me well. So it's one of those things where it's like, I can go one or two ways. You can't do this ever, you can't do this ever, or it's like, hey, come talk to me about it. I'm not there yet, they're still young, but they know what I've been through.
I heard a mom say, who had been through a really bad crisis, say, so when you sit down with your kid, open your ears and listen. And so when they say, oh, things weren't so good today, instead of going, oh, sweetie, you'll be okay, it'll be all right, say, tell me more about that. And allow them to open up and have that connection, because they need to make that connection, and to just, because you don't want to hear it, don't shut it down. And you know, it's hard to see your kid in pain. And so to embrace that and allow that relationship to be very open, that's the magic. Love and open communication are the best tools around.
Ryan, what are some things that Lincoln Police Department is doing dedicating to find these drugs and get them off the streets?
Sure. Well, first of all, the Narcotics Task Force investigates every single overdose. So all 180 this year we've investigated, with the goal of preventing future overdoses by doing three things: holding people accountable that are distributing the drugs, seeking out and seizing drugs that are remaining that are causing the overdoses, and offering resources to the victims, trying to get them plugged in and get help so they can break that cycle. You know, a typical investigation into one of these involves interviews, reviewing video and various forms of digital evidence, phone records, all those sorts of things.
How many people are dedicated to that?
It was one person, but that's kind of turned into our whole unit is doing it just because it's the workload is so overwhelming.
Right. Yeah. What about the relationship you guys have had with Centerpoint and Lincoln Police Department? It seems like this unified front has really come alive here the last couple of years because of these issues with overdoses. How much have you guys worked with the Lincoln Police Department over the years here, and how much does that help you guys in this unified front here to end this overdose crisis?
Well, I don't know how much it's caused a difference in the actual overdoses. Yeah. We've seen it grow. Right. But what we've done is built the capacity of the community to respond to situations where people are in big stress. And so the crisis response team will go out, as Tasia just said, on a wide variety of situations. And so what we want to do is be able to be the experts in a situation where the police feel they're at a loss to help the situation that's going on. So we want to back that up and then to the extent possible, get them back on the streets if we can take it over from there. So it helps in the resources to not have the police tied up for endless amounts of time, but also bring the experts where the experts are needed. And you know, so Ryan can tell you more probably, but but we have found it to be a great relationship and synergistic. So when two different things come together and create a bigger thing is synergy, and that's what I feel like our partnership has been with the LPD.
Is that what's it going to take? That synergy, Ryan, to kind of put into this?
Yeah, I agree completely, and we fully recognize that this is one of those problems that we're never going to solve by ourselves. We need help from organizations like Centerpoint, from every part of the community needs to work together to deal with these sorts of issues.
So we have at Centerpoint, and especially in the outpatient, we have integrated treatment teams, and so that means a peer support person, so Tasia, a prescriber, so an APRN or a physician, but APRN in this case, therapists, case managers, all come together to talk about the circumstances of all the different people that we're seeing and do it very fast. So they're moving through, but what it does is it's like if we were coordinating, so then when the person comes in, you know what's going on, I know what's going on, you do. And so that integration helps wrap around that person and give a better quality care and really touch all the parts of their situation that they need help with.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well, we don't have any more viewer questions right now. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we kind of wrap things up right now?
I would just like to add that free Narcan is available at a couple pharmacies here in town. I strongly encourage anyone struggling with opioid addictions or friends and family, loved ones of those people, go take advantage of that, get that Narcan. I think, well, out of the 35 recent fentanyl overdoses, all of the survivors were provided with Narcan, and it reversed the effects of their overdose so they could get to the hospital. So that's critical that people take advantage of that resource.
Right, absolutely.
And it's Coles and Hy-Vee at 50th and
Correct.
O Street.
Correct.
And so, you know, people might be listening and going, what? I can just like walk in and get Narcan? But yeah, you can walk in and get Narcan. And as you say, if somebody runs into that situation where all of a sudden they're overdosed and they're not going to be able to reverse it probably, but their friend can be there and do it. And it's a nasal spray, and it's easily administered. And then you've got to get the person to the hospital, because it's not like, okay, done. It's like a temporary to give you a little bit of time to get there.
Call 911 too.
You can call 911, and yeah, so it's really that temporary thing, but it averts the disaster and helps you in the emergency. But you really can walk into Kohl's or Hy-Vee pharmacy, and you know, any of us, anybody can. It's a good idea.
And I just want to reiterate that most of these victims are requiring more than one dose,
right.
But the one dose will give the first responders time to get there and administer additional doses if necessary, and then get the person to the hospital.
It's important to note that's just a short-term solution, because obviously the long-term effect of the overdose is still going to be there. It's just a way to wake them up a little bit and get them more alert for the first responders there. Right. Tasia, anything you want to add?
I just want to add that, you know, I don't think that this is something that ever is going to come to an end, but I think that we as a community is doing a really good job of keeping an open mind to people like me, you know, or people out there who are still struggling with this, who don't have to lose their life to this, and the ones who have lost their life on both ends, you know. And so I think that like we as a community are doing a really good job of that, and I'm glad to be on this end of it. You know, and if anyone out there, you know, is needing help or support, you know, Centerpoint walk-in crisis services are available, you know, there's resources out there readily and available, you know. And I always like to share the story of like when I go out on the field calls with the officers, it's like being on the other end of it. I think about how comforting that would have felt when I was out there, just having someone in non-uniform just to be there to talk to me, and just kind of, because my adrenaline's already going, I'm seeing an officer in a uniform, and so like I believe in what we're doing as the crisis, you know, team, because I've been there, and it's like, man, I really think that that could have helped me, having a non-uniform person just telling me like, hey, this is what we can do for you. So there's lots of support, lots of resources out there. You know, you just, there is hope. There is hope and support.
And I just want to be clear too that Centerpoint isn't doing any sort of enforcement or anything like that. So people can be comfortable talking with Centerpoint and disclosing what their struggles are, and it's not going to make it back.
It's all confidential.
Right.
Yeah.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us again. We're going to have this all on our website, all these resources we're talking about. We'll give you a way to find those and to get help if you need that help right now. But again, these people are here to help educate everyone. And I think they did a pretty good job. So thank you guys again for coming in here. Again, Topher Hansen, Captain Ryan Dale with Lincoln Police Department, and Tasia Brummagem. Said that right?
Yes.
Brummagem.
Yes.
Right. I was worried about it the entire time, but thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for doing it, Andrew.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for everyone else for joining us tonight. Have a great night.